self-defense, and the Trump administration told Congress that the actions by cartels constitute an armed attack against the United States.
This is a national security problem. These drugs coming in, they killed 300,000 Americans last year, and that gives you legal authority.
But declaring the cartels terrorist organizations has no bearing on whether military action is justified, according to experts. Members of Congress from both parties have criticized the strikes, and lawmakers could put limits on the president's use of military force. But Republicans who control Congress won't want to cross Trump. He holds enormous sway with Republican voters, 87% of whom approve of his job performance. Court challenges to carry out the strikes would face high hurdles, as U.S. courts often defer to the president on matters of foreign relations and security, while international tribunals generally lack enforcement power.
Today's pollution levels are way higher than the other days in the past. The pollution has anyway reached an extreme level, especially after Diwali and other festivals. It is very challenging to live in this environment. We are young people, and if it is causing health issues to us, the young kids and the elderly must be suffering a lot.
South Korea's new president has sought Chinese President Xi Jinping's help in efforts to resume talks with nuclear-armed neighbor North Korea. On the Chinese leader's first visit to South Korea in 11 years, Lee Jae-myung gifted Xi a prized wooden board for the Asian strategy game Go on Saturday. After an APEC meeting in Gyeongju wrapped up, Xi told Lee he was willing to widen cooperation and jointly tackle the challenges they face. Meanwhile, hundreds of protesters joined an anti-China rally in Seoul. The South Korean president has promised to strengthen ties with the United States while not antagonizing China and seeking to reduce tensions with the North. Lee has called for a phased approach to denuclearizing North Korea, starting with engagement and a freeze on further development of nuclear weapons. In a statement, Pyongyang, a military and economic ally of China, dismissed the denuclearization agenda as an unrealizable pipe dream. North Korea has repeatedly and explicitly rejected Lee's overtures, saying it will never talk to the South. In recent years, Pyongyang abandoned its long-standing policy of unification with the South and called Seoul a main enemy.
Tanzania's President Samia Suluhu Hassan was declared the landslide winner on Saturday of an election that set off deadly protests over the exclusion of her main rivals. The result hands Hassan a 5-year term to govern the East African country of 68 million people, which she has led since the death of her predecessor in 2021. Protests erupted on Wednesday, with demonstrators angry that Hassan's two biggest challengers were excluded by the Electoral Commission on what they described as widespread repression. Tanzania's main opposition party said on Friday that hundreds of people had been killed in the protests. Saif Magango from the UN Human Rights Office said credible reports indicated at least 10 people were killed in 3 cities.
We are alarmed by the deaths and injuries that have occurred in the ongoing election-related protests in Tanzania.
The government has dismissed the opposition's death toll as hugely exaggerated and has rejected criticism of its human rights record. Reuters could not independently verify casualty figures. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has called for a thorough and impartial investigation into all allegations of excessive use of force. Tanzanian authorities have imposed a nationwide curfew for the last 3 nights and restricted access to the internet.
Survivors of the fall of the Sudanese city of Al-Fashir to paramilitaries have spoken of their escape. Al-Khair Ismail says he was among a couple of hundred men rounded up near Al-Fashir on October 26 by fighters riding camels. They were taken to a reservoir, racial slurs were shouted at them, then their captors, from the Rapid Support Forces, started to shoot. Ismail, speaking to a local journalist in nearby Taweila, says he was allowed to flee because a fighter recognised him. He and the other men were unarmed, he says. There was a young man I studied with in the University of Khartoum, he says. He told them, don't kill him. After that, they killed the rest of the people, the youths who were with me and my friends. Reuters could not immediately verify his account. He was one of 4 such witnesses and 6 aid workers interviewed by Reuters. Reuters has verified at least 3 videos posted on social media showing men in RSF uniforms shooting unarmed captives. Activists and analysts have long warned of revenge killings based on ethnicity by the RSF if they seized Al-Fashir, the last stronghold of the Sudanese military in Darfur. The RSF has denied such abuses. The fall of Al-Fashir marks a milestone in Sudan's 2.5-year civil war. In another of the testimonies obtained and verified by Reuters, Tahani Hassan said she fled to Taweila early that Sunday after her brother-in-law and uncle were killed by stray bullets. On the way, she and her family were apprehended by 3 men in RSF uniforms who searched them, beat them and insulted them, she said.
They hit us hard. They threw our clothes on the ground. Even I, as a woman, was searched. That boy, he could be younger than my daughter.
They eventually made it to a place called Ghani, where the fighters separated women and children from the men, most of whom they did not see again. They included her brother and a second brother-in-law.
We can't say if they are alive or dead because of how they treated us. If they don't kill you, the thirst will kill you. The hunger will kill you. It's humiliation, utmost humiliation.
The UN Human Rights Office shared other accounts on Friday, estimating hundreds of civilians and unarmed fighters may have been executed. Such killings are considered war crimes. A high-level RSF commander called the accounts media exaggerations and said the RSF's leadership had ordered investigations into any violations by RSF individuals. He said several had been arrested.
As tensions rise between China and Taiwan, residents of the stunning islands of Batanes are growing increasingly anxious. The least populous province of the Philippines is also its northernmost and closest territory to Taiwan. Until recently, locals say it was a peaceful backwater where the indigenous Ivatan people make a living from fishing and tourism.
Food can be expensive since a lot is shipped from the mainland. So we all have to learn how to fish.
But the northern tip of Batanes is just 87 miles from Taiwan's southern point, and many, like fisherman Joven Cabrera, worry their island will get drawn in if conflict breaks out.
Nobody wins in war, yet everybody will be affected, especially civilians. We should pray that that won't happen because given how close we are, it's inevitable that Batanes will be affected.
Over the past 5 years, China has stepped up military drills near Taiwan, which it sees as a breakaway province. President Xi Jinping has said Beijing won't renounce the right to use force to resolve the dispute over the island. Taiwan's government rejects China's sovereignty claims, saying only the island's people can decide their future. Chinese officials have labelled Taiwan's President Lai Ching-te a separatist, fueling fears that Beijing may use force to assert control, igniting a broader regional conflict. Batanes also sits on the southern edge of the Bashi Channel, a major shipping lane between the Philippines and Taiwan that connects the South China Sea with the Western Pacific. That puts the island province on the front line of the great power competition between the United States and China for dominance in the Asia-Pacific region.
Some countries would want Batanes, I would say, for military purposes and for trade purposes.
Commodore Edward Ike de Sagon, former head of the Northern Luzon Naval Command, underlined the strategic importance of Batanes to his country.
It's very important that we come up with credible forces there to protect the national interest.
Earlier this year, annual joint US-Philippine military exercises were held closer to Taiwan. Reuters reporting shows the drills revealed how the two sides plan to use ground-based anti-ship missiles to make the Bashi Channel impassable in a conflict. It would help deny the Chinese Navy access to the Western Pacific, which is vital for potentially countering US and Japanese attempts to intervene in a Taiwan crisis. Calling the Taiwan issue an internal affair, Beijing's foreign ministry said how it is resolved